More information slowly coming out regarding longtime Scottsbluff Police Captain Brian Wasson's termination from the force. KNEB.TV News starts right now.
From your trusted source for news in western Nebraska and eastern Wyoming, this is KNEB.TV News. Presented by Platte Valley Companies, premier provider of financial services.
Hello, I'm Ryan Murphy. This is KNEB.TV News, powered by Platte Valley Companies. Thanks for joining me. In our top story, more details are emerging following the abrupt termination of longtime Scottsbluff Police Captain Brian Wasson. City Manager Kevin Spencer told KNEB News earlier this month that Wasson had not been with the department since September 6th. However, this week, during the Police Standards Advisory Council meeting in Grand Island, Wasson voluntarily surrendered his law enforcement certification. Nebraska Public Media has reported that Wasson admitted that he had been stealing and using fentanyl from the Scottsbluff Police Department evidence room. Cody Thomas with the Nebraska State Patrol told KNB News that the NSP had started an investigation at the request of Scottsbluff Police, and criminal charges could be soon filed. Well, 3 people have been arrested, and more than 1.5 pounds of methamphetamine is off the streets following a Nebraska State Patrol drug bust Tuesday morning. Troopers received information of a vehicle suspected to be trafficking a controlled substance through the Panhandle as it was en route to the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. A trooper made contact with the northbound Nissan Rogue on Highway 385 near Gurley, and a search revealed approximately 1.6 pounds of meth as well as psilocybin mushrooms. The driver, Brianna Big Crow, and passengers Monique Maryval and Dawn Dowdy, all of Rapid City, were arrested for possession of methamphetamine with intent to deliver. All 3 were booked into the Cheyenne County Jail. And a rural Mitchell woman who was the target of a December 2022 Wing Drug Task Force investigation has been sentenced to 8 to 10 years in prison. 37-year-old Ginny Bernhardt, also known as Ginny Perez, was accused of selling a total of 35 fentanyl pills over the course of 2 controlled buys in southeast Scottsbluff. A warrant for her arrest was issued in August, charging her with 2 Class 1D felony charges of distribution of fentanyl within 1,000 feet of a school. Last month, she pleaded no contest to a single charge of attempted distribution of a controlled substance near a school zone, a Class 2 felony. Bernhardt did receive 40 days credit for time already served, and if she doesn't lose any good time, she could be released from prison as early as September 2027. We'll have more news right after this.
The journey of a dream becoming reality. When we're young, a dream develops into a passion. That passion continues to manifest and grows as you do. It becomes all you want to do and all you want to be. It gives you direction. It drives you. Then, your dream has become a reality. When that dream is ready to be reality, Platte Valley Bank will be with you every step of the way.
Life Care promises us that we are looked after and taken care of properly.
If I didn't have Life Care, I would be probably scared to death about having enough money for when I got older or when I got sick.
Moving in here was an easy decision and, in fact, a no-brainer. I looked at it as actually buying long-term care insurance, and in retrospect, a good move.
One of the things that convinces me that we did the right thing is no matter what happens, we will constantly be taken care of.
The whole thing is just vital because you don't have to be worried about what's ahead for you. It's there, it's in black and white, and that's reassuring.
This is home. It has been from the day I moved in.
The beauty is you don't really need a good offense right now in the Big Ten West. You just need a good defense.
It is once again time for Husker Chat. I'm Jason Jorgensen. It's brought to you by Acres Equipment as we talk Husker football with the publisher of Husker Online, Sean Callahan. Another Husker victory to talk about. Workmanlike, gritty win against Northwestern. Sean, how you been? It certainly looks like the Huskers' fortunes have changed the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, they're winning, and they're on a little run here, but obviously they continue to deal with adversity, and that becomes the story again with 3 of their 5 starters on the O-line out with injury, 2 out for the season. Nuri Noeli eventually will be back later, but then Billy Kemp, their top receiver by far, out for a few weeks with his MCL sprain. So this is an extremely limited team. 3 of their top 5 O-linemen now out. 4 of the top 5 receivers they opened fall camp with out for the year. In Kemp's case, a few more weeks. Then 2 of their top 3 overall running backs on the roster to start camp are out. Emmett Johnson's been able to emerge, but it's a really tough hand of cards they've been dealt. But they're not, the beauty is you don't really need a good offense right now in the Big Ten West. You just need a good defense.
And they certainly have that. Let's get back to the offensive line. They started this year with not a whole lot of depth. What depth they have now is certainly going to be tested. I wanted to ask you this week, who are the key guys now they plug in to try to make this work?
I'm always trying to look at it from an optimistic perspective, and I think that they can put 3 guys. They're going to put 3 guys in there that have either started or played before. Teddy Prohaska, left tackle. Henry Latoski will be a guard, and then Justin Evans Jenkins, the other guard who's been playing all year. So they can plug in 3 players that have either started Big Ten games, or in Evans Jenkins' case, he's played a lot this year. So it's not like they're just putting some scout teamer out there. They've got serviceable, but that is it. That is the cupboard. I mean, they've cleared out everything in the cupboard out on the field now. So if there were to be another injury, then it would get dicey. That would be a real tough situation, but they can manage with this group. But especially because they're not playing an Ohio State or Michigan type team on the rest of the schedule. But I think it's going to be a tough finish, no doubt.
And their struggles on offense, you can point to a lot of issues. You can speak to the injuries. Also, they're still playing a young quarterback. Heinrich Harburg certainly has been up and down, but boy, it was great to see him connect with Malachi Coleman on an old vintage Husker play.
Yeah, that option pass play, you have that in there to run, and usually the Malachi Coleman route is not there for the taking. I mean, that's typically just a guy that kind of like helps free up the middle of the field for the guy underneath. But in that case, Malachi ran by his defender. Harburg made a perfect throw. And you just knew if they could get it to 17-6, it was pretty much over, and they were able to. And Northwestern got it back to 17-9. But getting that game to 17-6 really kind of ended any hope that the Wildcats had, because they were not scoring on Nebraska, at least a traditional touchdown type drive.
Today on Husker Chat, we're checking with Sean Callahan, the publisher of Husker Online. Sean, I think most people felt and hoped going into this year that this defense would be better. Are you surprised that they are as good as they are?
Well, they've got a lot of veteran leadership, a lot of guys that have played for Nebraska. So the material, I follow recruiting, and the guys they bring in, they've always brought in good players. I think between coaching changes and COVID years and things, just different things hurt development. And now I think finally they're like, all right, we're all on the same page. Tony White has a really good scheme and a really good plan. They play a lot of guys too. And I think there's a lot of benefit to that. Number one, you have depth, but number two, I think you engage the entire locker room. When you can take James Williams, who joined the team in June, and have him make a game-ending sack for your defense, that's going to get other guys engaged. Like, gosh, he went hard in scout team, and they brought him up to the defense, and he made a sack. So I think the culture rules building has really been able to engage a lot of players to step up.
All right, this week, 2-5 Purdue comes to town. They have a week off after they were belted a couple weeks back by Ohio State. Thought it was interesting out of the gate. Their coach, Walters, no fan of Lincoln, no fan of the Huskers, and he really let everybody know that.
Yeah, I don't know what the point of doing that is, but just having some fun, I guess. But he's a great defensive coach. I mean, what he did at Illinois a year ago, he was arguably one of the best assistant coach jobs in the nation with what he did for Brett Bielema. They had 3 guys drafted in their secondary, and he had a first rounder on the D-line that's still at Illinois this year. So he built a great scheme under Brett Bielema there, and now he's trying to do that in West Lafayette. They have a quarterback, Hudson Card, who transferred in. Dylan Mockabee returns at running back. They have good receivers. they're 2-5, but they've been really they easily could be 4-3. I mean, they've had a lot of close, tough games. They played a tough non-conference schedule. So their 2-5 record's a little deceiving because this is an even match game. I think it's going to come down to once again the little things and the details, and can Nebraska make the plays when they matter?
Recipe for the Huskers have been low, kind of boring, ugly games. They've been able to ugly it up. Do you see that kind of theme of a game on Saturday again?
Unless the defense or the special teams can create a few plays. But yeah, this offense, I think we know what it is. I mean, they only had one long sustained drive a week ago, and that was before halftime. Their average drive length, even with that drive, the 10-plus play drive they had, was 4 plays a drive. So they're just not getting a lot of conversions. Northwestern dropped back 7 to 8 in coverage every time. They only blitzed twice the entire game on Heinrich Harburg. So some teams decide to go after him, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's the approach Purdue does, especially with the O-line things. Others choose to drop into coverage and make Harburg fit those passes into tight windows where guys aren't really open, and he's got to make a decision how to get it in there where, Thomas Fedoni is going to have somebody on his back and he's got to make a throw to him. And, it's tough because they've got to run the ball at a higher level, I think, for some of these receivers to start getting more wide open.
All right, we'll see how it shakes out. It is great, though, see mid-season Nebraska football starting to put some things together and some good mojo going forward.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the momentum, they have a chance to win 3 games in a row for the first time since 2016. And a win would get them one step closer, one win away from a bowl. So I think there's a lot of things to play for here. I know they're still in the West too. I mean, they win this week, all of a sudden you can say, hey, they're kind of in the middle of the West race. Michigan State in a very winnable game on the road at 11 a.m. You got to expect the atmosphere there with a fired coach and a struggling team is not going to be great in East Lansing. It's the first time we've ever played an 11 a.m. game out there. So there's a lot of optimism, I think, within this program. They know they're limited, but I think these guys are playing for their head coach.
All right. Sean, as always, we appreciate your time and your insights.
Thank you very much, Jason.
That was Sean Callahan, the publisher of Husker Online, joining us. Once again, this is Husker Chat. We come to you every week, and it's brought to you by Acres Equipment. I'm Jason Jorgensen.
Welcome to Kelly's Liquor, your liquor cabinet. Whether you're a wine enthusiast, a whiskey sommelier, a tequila connoisseur, or you just love your beer, Kelly's has the best selection of what you're looking for. Family owned and operated since 1946 and right on 27th Street in Scottsbluff. Come see us today at Kelly's Liquor, your liquor cabinet. And remember to be a good neighbor. Don't drink and drive. Kelly's Liquor, West 27th Street in Scottsbluff.
Fly United Airlines, operated by SkyWest with Western Nebraska Regional Airport. United is dedicated to going the extra mile for you with daily flights to and from Denver, along with a commitment to excellent service. Reserve your flight today, and remember, United miles can be earned and redeemed with your flights. While at the airport, stop and enjoy authentic Italian food at Roma Italian Restaurant. Plus, Hertz Thrifty Car Rental is there for your car rental needs. Make life easier, relax, and get on board with Western Nebraska Regional Airport.
This is KNEB.TV Ag News from the FNBO Ag Desk. FNBO, the great big small bank.
If you close your eyes on the latest happenings in Washington, D.C., you've missed a lot. Lawmakers narrowly voted a government shutdown. 8 House Republicans joined with Democrats to oust the House Speaker. And then lawmakers were unable to pass a new farm bill before that expired at the end of September. For this week's Crop Talk, we're going to be discussing the impact of the expired farm bill with Extension Policy Specialist, that is Dr. Brad Lupin. There's a lot to talk about, as I kind of teed up in our introduction today. The fact that the House doesn't have a leadership seems like the most pressing topic at the moment.
Right. We may be on the road to a new House leader based on some votes amongst the House caucus, the Republican caucus. That person, Steve Scalise from Louisiana, may have garnered the majority support of Republicans to be nominated to be House leader. We still have to watch and see, perhaps yet this week, whether he receives a majority of the entire House to assume the new Speaker role. But that's only step one. We need a leader in the House to actually start to do things. There's a whole lot to do before we get to a farm bill.
One of the things has to do with funding the different agencies, U.S. Department of Agriculture being one of them. Bring us up to speed of what's happened up to this point and where we stand.
Yeah. You know, the appropriations process has been difficult. There's a history of it always being difficult. But there was essentially a promise earlier in the year that all the appropriations bills would be considered in regular order, independently. The agriculture bill was moving through the House Appropriations Committee and really disastrously fell apart and did not move forward. We ended up with an appropriations bill for ag that did reach the floor and was voted down. So ag is back in line with many, many other departments waiting on appropriations. And all we accomplished before the end of September was to push the deadline off 45 days. A continuing resolution gives us more time to debate. It doesn't promise that the final answer is any easier.
What was in that bill that led to its failure on the floor?
You know, there are many things about the whole legislative process, and even though it's appropriations, there's oftentimes policy issues that are at the root cause of continuing and lingering debate. A key issue in what was the Ag and FDA appropriations bill, but a key issue related to spending on food assistance. And that's a fight that was actually fought back when we were debating the debt ceiling back in early this year. There was a compromise made. Part of the compromise may have led to Speaker McCarthy's ultimate ouster, but there was a compromise made that there would be cuts on the food assistance side, but not as severe as some in the right wing were pushing for. That compromise got us a new debt ceiling and basically kept the government functioning. But then it simply raised the ire, and the next bill up was the appropriations bill, and we fought over food assistance again. If we put the issue to bed in the appropriations process, we'll probably find out that we're fighting over it again on the farm bill just as soon.
Well, speaking of the farm bill, the deadline that we're always told is September 30th. Well, that date has passed at this point.
That's right. The 2018 farm bill did come and go, and it expired at the end of September. We now live in a limbo phase because there are some programs that are actually authorized with mandatory authority and funding, like crop insurance, and they continue on unaffected. There are some programs that are set to expire, but by virtue of the Inflation Reduction Act, some of the conservation programs were extended for several years of authority. There are some programs that we might particularly think of, like commodity programs, and while the authorizing language technically ran through September, they authorize support for a crop year. And so the 2023 crop is covered. It's the 2024 crop year that's the first to be affected if we don't have new legislation. That first 2024 crop is milk that's harvested on January 1, 2024. That's the real deadline that we have to get something done.
So between now and then, lawmakers have the opportunity, they could pass an extension, kind of kick the can down the road. What's historical perspective tell us about the outlook for that happening, and how long would an extension be?
You know, it's quite possible to imagine an extension, and it's quite possible that that's the most likely outcome at this point, because real debate on a farm bill still has to wait in line behind the appropriations process that has another 45 days or 35 days or so of debate yet to occur. And then the conflict in Israel, amongst other things. There are always fires, or in some cases bonfires, to put out in Washington, and the farm bill is going to have to wait its time to get even some consideration. That suggests that time is really running short to make substantial changes or reform, or to to try and coalesce around some compromise language. That leans more and more towards the most likely plausible scenario is extend current legislation, and then the debate is 1, maybe 2 years. Extend it 1 year and we fight over this again in the middle of an election year. Extend it 2 years and it's a brand new Congress that will take up a farm bill reauthorization. So there are big questions left, but sometime between now and the end of the year, we're going to have to figure out which path to take.
Let me wrap up with this question because it's one I was discussing with somebody this week. Why every 5 years do we have the farm bill? At this point, it's been in debates. Why is it not longer policy?
It is by nature, by history, that it just seems to be every 5 years. It's not always perfectly every 5, but 5 is about a number that says we pass a farm bill for the times that we're in. And sure enough, in 2018, we passed a farm bill, and we were in a period of time when prices were lower, and farm incomes were a little bit less, less prosperous than what our recent farm income numbers have given us. We passed a farm bill for that kind of market. Well, since that time, commodity prices have risen substantially before the recent pullback, but so have production costs. And the same safety net we passed in 2018 at these prices doesn't really protect us if prices are up here and the safety net's still here. And so periodically, every few years, whatever we passed looks outdated. Time for change. And so we continually come back to new farm bill legislation generally every 5 years.
Logos in Gearing is the place to get all of your school spirit gear, personalized gifts, and promotional items for your business and employees, and banners for any special event. Logos is also the only place to stop for custom screen printing or embroidery. You can even design it yourself on their interactive website. Stop into Logos today. They'll design it, print it, and have it to you in no time. There's no job too big or small for Logos. That's Logos in Gearing.
Let's take a peek at your weekend community calendar, brought to you by Riverstone Bank. The community calendar is brought to you by Riverstone Bank. We're local and we love our community.
You deserve to have a building that will last for generations. With more than 110 years of experience and thousands of satisfied customers, Morton Buildings is the industry leader you can trust. If you're planning for a garage, farm shop, horse barn, storage building for your RV, boat, or collectibles, there's no better time to buy. Contact your local Morton sales office or visit mortonbuildings.com to get started today.
At Platte Valley Bank, we want to help you take advantage of every adventure. We know you have plans, goals, and dreams. Let us help you with them. Whether you are just starting the business you have always imagined or looking to grow your existing one, we have a business loan to fit your needs. Stop in and see us at Platte Valley Bank and let us help make your dreams a reality. You belong here. Platte Valley Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
And finally tonight, Nebraska is among 33 states that have filed a federal lawsuit against social media company Meta, formerly known as Facebook, alleging the company knowingly designed and developed harmful features on Facebook, Instagram, and other social media platforms that are purposefully addictive to children and teens. The federal suit and 8 companion suits in state courts assert that Meta's business practices violate state consumer protection laws and the federal Child's Online Privacy Protection Act, fueling what the U.S. Surgeon General has deemed a youth mental health crisis. During a virtual news conference, Nebraska Attorney General Mike Hilger says AGs are standing not only with children, but also with parents.
What those parents need is accurate and truthful information, and in particular with products like Meta that can have such a profound negative impact on their children's mental health and well-being. They didn't get that information. And not only did they not get accurate and truthful information, but Meta misled them. They misled consumers about the impact of their platform, and they contradicted in their own internal documents what they said to the public.
Hilger has called Meta's conduct outrageous, appalling, and wrong. Portions of the federal lawsuit remain under seal, but the states are seeking injunctive and monetary relief to correct the harms they say are a result of the company's social media platforms. Well, that does it for us this time. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday.